Well, welcome viewers to part 4 of this Jehovah Witness series, 1931 to 1935, the new name, new destiny system. And this was the claim. The Jehovah Witnesses embraced, or the Watchtower embraced, the name Jehovah Witnesses in 1931, for those that didn't know. The Jehovah Witness name was established in 1931, and this is after two catastrophic failed prophecies. The organisation shouldn't have been continuing on at this stage, but it did, and this is what cults do. So this was not a major administrative change or a simple rebranding exercise. It marked a major moment in the development of the movement's identity. A name does more than identity or identifying the group. It defines boundaries, creates belonging, and tells followers who they are in relation to everyone else. By adopting the name Jehovah Witnesses, the movement moved further away from being seen as one of Bible study streams among many and presented itself as a distinct people with a distinct calling. The new name gave members a sharper sense of separation from other Christians, especially from what the organisation called Christendom. It strengthened the idea that they were not merely readers of Scripture or students of prophecy, but a people uniquely appointed to represent God's name before the world. That gave the movement a stronger internal identity and a clearer external distinction. It was no longer simply about what they believed, it became about who they were. And this matters, because once a name becomes sacred, leaving the group no longer feels like changing churches or revising doctrine. It feels like abandoning identity itself. The person is not just asked to reconsider a teaching, they are asked to step aside and step outside a name that has been tied to loyalty, truth, safety, and belonging. That is why names can function as psychological fences. They hold people together not only through doctrine, but through identity. A tighter version for a shorter of this could be they embraced the name Jehovah Witnesses in 1931. This was far more than a name change. It was an identifying, forming event. The movement was no longer a loose Bible student association. It became a distinct people with a distinct name, a stronger sense of separation, and a clearer boundary between them and us. From that point on, membership was tied more deeply to identity. Leaving was no longer just disagreement. It felt like losing who you were. So the expectation of this, viewers, a distinct name separates us from them, strengthening identities and boundaries. It gives members a stronger sense of belonging and a clearer sense of difference from outsiders. Over time, the name becomes more than a label. It becomes part of the person's identity. That makes loyalty feel deeper and leaving feel costlier, because the issue is no longer just belief. It's about belonging to the name. The outcome of all this, the name becomes a loyalty container. It no longer functions as a simple description of religious affiliation, like joining or leaving an ordinary denomination. Instead, it begins to hold identity, belonging, moral worth, and perceived faithfulness to God all in one place. Once that happens, leaving the group no longer feels like changing churches or revising a doctrine position. It feels like losing a name, a people, and a self. And that's why the emotional cost becomes so high. A person is not merely stepping away from meetings, literature, or organizational structure. They are stepping away from the identity that has told them who they are, where they belong, and how they should see the world. The name becomes tied to safety, righteousness, loyalty, and divine approval. So to leave is not experienced as a neutral decision. It feels like betrayal, feels like exposure, it feels like dislocation. So in practical terms, this means the group no longer holds members only through belief. It holds them through identity attachment, and that's what they did when they changed the name to the Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931. The person may have doubts about teachings, leadership or policy, but the fear of identity loss can keep them in place long after confidence is weakened. And that is what makes the name such a powerful loyalty container. It turns departure into something deeper than disagreement. It makes leaving feel like the collapse of self, not merely the relocation of belief. So let's reframe this, viewers. It was presented as spiritual clarity and necessary separation from Christendom when they changed the name to the Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931. The change was framed not as branding or institutional consolidation, but as obedience, purity, and clear identification with God's purpose. In that way, the new name appeared to signal faithfulness rather than strategy, making separation feel spiritually noble rather than organizationally useful. And why this matters. Names are not just labels. They are psychological fences. They mark boundaries, define belonging, and shape how people see themselves in relation to others. Once a name becomes sacred, it does more than identify a group. It helps protect the system by making separation feel like loss and not just disagreement. And so not many of you, or maybe a lot of you, realize that in 1931 they did this, and it was all part of the marketing campaign. In reflection, when did what I believe quietly become who I am? Ask yourself that. When did what I believe quietly become who I am? And a challenge: write one sentence. I am still blank, even without the group. I am still strong without the group. I am still suffering without the group. I am still mending, even without the group. And a proverb: better to be a nobody and yet have a servant than pretend to be somebody and have no food. And that's an overview of what the Jehovah's Witnesses did when that name came into reality in 1931. In the next chapter, viewers, we're going to 1935, the crowd, the two-tier future. That'll be episode 5. Thanks for coming in. If you like the video, press like. If you want to subscribe, please do. And I'll see you in episode 5. The great crowd, the two-tier future.